Guys, the 2021 BMW M5 and M5 competition, LCI, has finally been put on the BMW USA website. It may already have been there on other parts of the world, but we finally got the update. I think it happened over the last hour or two. I checked last night and it definitely wasn't there. I don't remember if I checked this morning. I'm really excited. I'm sweating right now. Although it might be that the sun is like directly on my face. What's an LCI? LCI, for those of you who don't know, which probably is going to be redundant since most of you watching this already know what's going on. In June of this year, they released an update to the styling and a little bit of the design of the current model F90 M5 and M5 competition. LCI stands for Life Cycle Impulse, and they do this with all their models around mid-range to kind of freshen it up a little bit. It's also a little bit bittersweet because it indicates that it's on the downhill of that particular generation. But let's talk about the updates that they made from bumper to bumper. Front bumper, what they've done, they have updated the lights to make them BMW laser, and they've also made them more L-shaped, more sleek looking, less of the round aspect, which I think looks pretty good. It's funny because this LCI compared to, for example, the LCI that occurred with the F80 and F82, M3 and M4 respectively, that actually had to grow on me for a little bit. Not too long, but it had to grow on me. This one I actually liked right off the bat. The other thing that they changed is in the front bumper, they've actually made the intakes a little bit larger, which may have been a logistical benefit, which I will touch on in a second. The sides of the car, I don't know, I didn't pay attention too much if they changed the lines of the car or if the lines just look a little bit sleeker because of what they've done to the front and the back, but it does look a little bit more streamlined, a little bit less busy. And my favorite part of the design that they've changed is actually the rear. What they've done to the taillights is they've made them 3D and they've made them a more bold LED look. What I like about the 3D look is that they've also made them with like a smoked style. If you look at particularly the brighter silver colors, the interesting thing, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, my one particular car designer by trade friend who I hope is watching this is certainly welcome to chime in. But one thing that I noticed is when the light is particularly right, the natural shadow that shows up on top of the rear bumper matches the way that the lights actually look, because the shadow or the smoke effect on the taillight, it kind of has this gradient to it, which looks like a shadow. So it matches perfectly with the natural shadow that falls on the car. I think that's really cool. In terms of the interior, they haven't changed much. They changed the buttons for the setup of the car. Instead of having your suspension, steering, and throttle response, they actually have a setup and an M mode button, and you can actually change the settings of the car, the ride, the throttle, the steering, all that stuff in the display, which is bigger. So speaking of a bigger display, there are some performance things that have been carried over. I don't know all of them, but I know some of them. And this is where I think the front bumper comes in. So let's talk about that first. The pre-LCI non-competition F90 M5 had heating issues. When I had a chance to drive it on the skid pad, 2 or 3 laps around the skid pad, which isn't very much, actually caused the car to overheat. I've never overheated a car in my life, and I was able to do that very easily. And sure, it was in the desert in Southern California, but it was also January, so it wasn't particularly hot at the time. The competition pack of the pre-LCI M5 seemed to remedy that because I could not overheat that. And from what I understand from the pro drivers there, that competition pack seemed to fix the heating issues. I'm wondering and I'm hoping that they increased the cooling vents to actually improve the cooling of the engine. We'll see about that. Second thing is they changed the display on the inside, and this is where they actually adapted from what they already have. So they actually took things from the M8 and the M8 competition and brought it into the M5, namely the screen, and they brought over suspension components from the M8. Now the M8 is supposed to be a GT car, so I'm hoping that they've tweaked the suspension of both the non-competition and the competition to make both more comfortable than their pre-LCI counterparts. In terms of power, 600 horsepower non-competition and an extra 17 horsepower for the competition pack. In terms of price, what you're looking at, this is an interesting point. So the M5 non-competition is starting at $103,500, and if you were to spec everything maxed out, you can get it up to $140,230. That's pretty significant. This is an interesting point. The $103,000 compared to what it was just prior isn't too crazy when you go through some of the options, but when you're starting to hit the $130,000, $140,000 mark, you're starting to encroach on the territory of some higher end sports cars, and you're not reaching the point of supercar territory. But when you have the money to drop on something like that, if you were to just dig a little bit more into your pocket, you could be getting a different territory. Granted, I know there's a lot more that comes with the M5 that doesn't come with a McLaren or a Porsche or whatever else is in that price range, but I just think it's interesting to note that 0 to 60 is 3.1 seconds, which I'm sure is a modest estimate from BMW. So a 5 Series large trunk, oh my gosh, family sedan hitting 3 seconds, possibly under 3 seconds on a 0 to 60. I mean, what is the world coming to? So let's run quickly through some of the options that have actually changed. In terms of exterior colors, they've added a few colors. They've added a Tanzanite Blue 2 metallic, which, I mean, the website sucks at being able to tell you what it actually looks like, but it's a darker shade. I suspect it's going to be a much darker shade than the Marina Bay Blue. They still have the Snapper Rocks Blue. They have the Donington Gray. They have an Alvite Gray, and they have a Brands Hatch Gray, and they've removed Singapore Gray. I would be interested to see what the Brands Hatch Gray looks like. It's definitely much lighter than the Singapore Gray. Singapore Gray was nearly black. I'm wondering which one of them looks less or more metallic. That would be interesting to see. They've added 2 reds, which are actually different from the European reds that have been advertised in the promotional videos. They've added Aventurine Red, which came from the M8, and they've added Motegi Red as well. What they didn't add was Imola Red, which is what they advertised the car with. The Motegi Red is similar. It's a red with a little bit of an orange to it, but the Motegi Red is more orange than the Imola Red. It seemed, at least what it seems like. Maybe the computer is just showing it weird, and it's actually our Imola Red. Don't know, but we'll see. And then they have your Bluestone Gray Metallic as well for $3,500, the Frozen Gray. In terms of interior, nothing stylistically has really changed. You have the same options, same trim, same leathers. Now, generally, the price of the LCI goes up a tiny bit, but in reality, I suspect that the price actually for what you're getting now is actually a little bit better, because there are certain options that were there before that are not there now. For example, the night vision. Is that part of the actual car as standard now? If it is, that's a price saving. They have also now added a competition package choice rather than a separate car. And they've changed the executive and the driving assistance plus package in terms of what little things come in it. Personally, I think the driving assistance plus package is probably more than I would need, and I would probably leave that out. That's actually something that I like, and that's a reason I'm mentioning that, because prior to this, a lot of the packages that they add, and of course this is a marketing thing, they distribute things that you would undoubtedly want in your car in all the packages, so you're stuck getting all of them. I'm glad that they didn't entirely do that, at least for me. Other options that they have, they still have the Bowers & Wilkins, they still have the carbon ceramics, but they've added the brake caliper colors. This is something that I love that they did. Why do I love it? Not because of the fact that you get to choose your color, but because you don't have to pay extra for it. These are $0 options, and I am super excited about that. So is the sunroof, by the way. Things I like about what they've done. Like I said, the front bumper I think was a good choice, and I'm hoping that it improves the cooling of the engine. I like the fact that the car looks less busy and looks more streamlined. I absolutely love the tail lights. I think they look fantastic. And again, like I said, when you have certain colors on the car, I love that the lights actually match the shadows that hit the car. That is brilliant. Other things that I like I said, I love the fact that they added the brake caliper colors, that you can be vain and picky without having to pay a price for it. I think that's fantastic. I also like the fact that they tweaked the packages a little bit so that they're a little bit more appealing as to what you get, and they may be including some other options for free in the car. And I like that. Things I don't like. This is where things get a little bit controversial. I think that the current M5 is a bit of a bittersweet moment. And speaking of the LCI being the indication of the downhill, I'm a big fan of BMW, and they surprised me because of the fact that I only in the last 5 or 6 years started getting BMWs, and you know, you definitely have your fanboys and fangirls and whatnot. I am perfectly happy being a fanboy of a car that's won me over based on how it performs. The car really does sell itself. That's how I feel in terms of its performance. And in terms of what you're getting for the money, out there on the market right now, there really isn't a lot that you're getting comparable to an M car or a BMW in general. So I think that's really fantastic. What I am worried about is I fear that between the current M5 and the current M2 competition, we are at the peak, at least temporarily, styling wise. Now I know the official M3 and M4 have not been released, but I had the good fortune, like a lot of people who will probably be going to some of the M track days over the next few days, I've gotten to see the M4. I'm just worried that stylistically, BMW might be one of the better cars that we can get in terms of equipment and general styling, but the bar is low, and I am afraid that the bar is going to get lower. I hope I'm wrong, and I still love BMW, and I would still love for them to hire me, so I'm going to go with it. Other things that I don't like that I wish could change, I'm not a big fan of the black tailpipes. I really do like the silver tailpipes. I was excited to find out that it was a very simple rubber mallet trick to change the tailpipes. I was really glad to know that. The other thing I could do without is the extension of the high gloss black on the rear bumper for the competition pack. I actually really like the body color bumper of the non-competition M5. So I love the front end of the competition. I really like the shadow line trim around the kidney grills, which have gotten slightly bigger, but not as big as some other cars that might be coming out. So I really like that end. The back end, I feel like I would leave the same as the non-competition M5. But anyway, I hope that was informative. I'm certainly excited, and maybe you got excited too. What do you guys think? How would you spec out your M5? Would you get the competition or not? Which packages would you get? Which options would you get? Which brake caliper colors would you get? Leave them in the comments below. Share this video with anyone else you think might benefit, and let me know what else you'd like to see on this channel.